Welcome back to another Extreme Movie Night. Today, I have decided to take a suggestion from a bunch of comments on my last video on an Extreme Movie Night, and that movie was I Stand Alone by Gasper Noe, by the way. And a comment on that video told me to watch some other Gasper Noe films because they are all extremely messed up. In particular, one called Irreversible, a very, very unique movie that is art house and avant-garde in the best way. I was also told that this movie has one of the hardest and most intense scenes in any movie ever. And let me tell you, yeah, it's pretty bad. It made me very uncomfortable, and I read really messed up stuff and watch really messed up stuff for a living now, and this scene got me to feel very uneasy. So of course, we have to review the whole movie for this channel. This one I actually like quite a bit more than a lot of the other movies we've covered because it is so intense and doesn't shy away from how atrocious and evil the act shown is. Now, as we go through this movie, you might realize it makes no sense upon the first watch, but that is because of a quirk that I'm going to sort of spoil just so it's easy to understand. Every scene you see in this movie happens after the next scene. So the movie is in reverse, effectively, or at least the scene order is in reverse. And because of that, the summary itself is going to be a little bit shorter this video, and we are going to analyze it a little bit more after instead. But if you don't know how we do things on this channel, let me break it down for you. We start out with an intro, which you are listening to now. Then we get into the summary, which is the bulk of the video where we do just that, summarize the work. And then finally, we get into the analysis, where we talk about the themes and messages of the work. So without waffling on any further about the film without showing it, let us get into Gasper Noe's Irreversible. The movie starts with the camera doing flips and stuff, and that is a mainstay in the movie. The camera is extremely full of motion in this movie. It does flips and turns around and does a lot of weird stuff. But the movie starts, or rather ends, with an alleyway. Not much can be discerned here other than police lights and footsteps. We will get into what this means later. But then, the scene changes and we are in a prison cell. A large man who is nearly naked says, "Time destroys all things." The other man in the cell just stares at him while smoking a cigarette. The cigarette man asks the old man what he's in for, and he says, he slept with his own daughter. So yes, by the way, this is the butcher from I Stand Alone, the last movie we covered. It's sort of a cameo in something I like to call the Gasper Noe Cinematic Universe, or the GNCU. The butcher says he can't stop thinking about his daughter though. She was all he had. The cigarette man says, well, at least he had something. The cigarette guy never had anything, he says. Not even that. The cigarette man laughs and says, I guess we're all Mephisto. Sorry to cut away from the actual movie so early, but what the man is implying here is everybody is Mephistopheles, the devil in Faust. Now, I may be wrong here, but in the Faust legend, Mephisto, or Mephistopheles, is not as comically evil as most depictions of a devil are. Mephisto understands his fall from God's good graces and regrets everything. He has lost everything. In a sense, he has lost it all, in a sense. And that is why Mephisto does evil. The cigarette guy here is saying that everybody is like Mephisto. Once someone loses something, they will regret it and perform evil. Like the butcher here, or everybody else in this film. But anyway, I digress. The cigarette guy continues that there is no bad deeds, just deeds. The butcher says, well, it just means they have to start over again. Fight on. They sit in silence after this as sirens blare outside. The cigarette man asks, what is all that noise out there? But the butcher laughs and says, ignore it. It's just from the gay club downstairs, always stirring shit up in the Rectum, which, despite how it sounds, that is the name of the gay club. The Rectum. The scene then shifts. There seems to have been a crime in the Rectum. A man is ruled out. He looks kind of okay, not hurt too bad. His arm looks broken, if anything. A policeman who is rolling him out says, hope we got your ass reamed in there too. Like Alex. I hope it bled. I hope it hurt. The insults make no sense now, but as the movie goes on, and we see into the past, you'll see that that is a terrible thing for him to have said. A bunch of men scream that they need to get out of here. but the hood is laughing at them now, and they need to get their money and go. Another man with a big nose and a receding hairline gets brought out of the club next. People say he's gonna get his ass fucked in prison. Then, we are in the point of view of the guy on the stretcher in the ambulance. The scene then shifts to the previous one as we see how this happened. A low droning sound can be heard, which I'm going to play during this scene so you can understand how maddening the sound is, but the noise plays throughout this whole scene. A red light is shown and it's very feverish. Inside this club, inside the Rectum, we see a lot of men having sex with the turning camera. A lot of penises in this scene, by the way. The door opens and closes, and the man who is on the stretcher asks the bouncer for a guy in this club named Tena. He seems rushed. He says he'll pay the bouncer to find him. He just has to find Tena. The stretcher guy and the man with the receding hairline seem to be here for something dangerous. The receding hairline guy says that the stretcher man here is here for revenge. He's an animal. But animals don't seek revenge. The receding hairline man says to drop it. He's gonna get hurt. The stretcher guy says, well, then he can leave then, because this is his problem, not the receding hairline guy's problem. So they're here for revenge. This Tena seems to have wronged the stretcher guy here somehow, and he's telling the receding hairline guy to leave because whatever happened, it's the stretcher guy's problem, not his. The hairline man tries to convince his friend, saying, they'll kill you, Marcus. So that's the stretcher man's name. But Marcus goes into the club anyway. The hairline man, whose name is Pierre, yells for Marcus to stop and don't go in, over and over. But Marcus seems maddened with rage over whatever happened. He does not listen. Then ensues a good 10-minute scene of a feverish search for Tena in this club. Lots of sex is shown in this extreme club. Eventually, Marcus finds a group of guys near a door, and he asks, if this guy here, are you Tena? And the guy sort of dodges the question and walks away. Marcus, thinking he's got his man, chases after him, and Tena tells everyone in the club to jump Marcus, but no one does. Marcus breaks a glass on Tena's face, and Tena throws him to the ground and breaks on Marcus's arm by stepping on it. While Marcus is on the ground, Tena starts to take off his and Marcus's pants, saying he's gonna fuck his ass, all while a bunch of guys jerk off in the background, mind you. But Pierre comes up behind Tena and hits him in the face with a fire extinguisher. Pierre leans over him and hits him again with the fire extinguisher in the face, knocking Tena's teeth out and beating him senseless, until he is more than likely dead from the blunt force trauma. His face is completely destroyed. Pierre looks over Tena, and everyone else watches and smiles at Pierre for killing this man. Pierre gets Marcus up, and they walk out of the club as the scene changes. Pierre and Marcus are in a taxi or some car, saying that they are getting close to the Rectum, but they don't know where to go from here. Marcus gets out of the car and goes inside of a random bar and asks, where's the Rectum? The owner says, oh, I'll show you where the Rectum is. Marcus starts a fight, but no one gets hurt. He goes back in the car and drives and picks up Pierre. They ask around for where the Rectum Club is, and someone seems to know where it is and points Marcus to where it is. Happy he is about to get his revenge, Marcus goes over to Pierre, but Pierre says, let's not do this. This is a bad idea. Let's just visit Alex in the hospital instead. Who's Alex, you might wonder, and why is Alex in the hospital? Does it have something to do with its revenge? Marcus tells Pierre that they are so close to the revenge. They now know where Tena is. Pierre once again says he's not going. Marcus, not taking his shit, picks up a conveniently placed rebar club and beats out the front windshield of the taxi that Pierre is in and says, you're coming with me. He tells him to stop being a sissy and let's get revenge. Revenge for Alex. Pierre, out of breath and panicking, just goes along with him. The scene changes. They are in that same taxi, but there is a driver notably now. Pierre and Marcus tell him to drive to the Rectum. They yell at the driver to go to the Rectum, but the driver keeps insinuating that Marcus is gay and wants to go to a gay club, but Marcus, of course, is annoyed by this and starts a fight. Pierre tells him that if he took half of this energy, he would have saved Alex tonight. Marcus calls the taxi driver some racial slurs because the driver doesn't seem to understand that the Rectum is a club and not just a word for asshole. But Pierre tries to calm everybody down, and Marcus, frustrated, doesn't seem to get that there is a language barrier thing going on here, and he just yells at the driver to go to the Rectum. They keep arguing, and the driver threatens to throw the two out, and Pierre says, Alex would be so ashamed of us right now. They keep fighting, and the driver says, that's it, he's throwing him out. Pierre tries to de-escalate and asks how much do they owe him for this trip, but Marcus just gets out of the moving car and goes to the driver and pepper sprays him. They then steal the taxi, like GTA. Pierre tells Marcus that he is sick for doing this as they drive off. We know how this all ends. The scene changes. They are now in a street, and Pierre tells Marcus to stop with the revenge shit. But there's an extra two guys with them now that weren't in the previous scenes. These two guys say they need the money now. Pierre says he'll pay, relax. Marcus argues some more with Pierre, and Pierre begs him just to go to the hospital to see Alex. But Marcus ignores Pierre and goes with the two thugs, and they ask two prostitutes nearby. They ask for a guy named Guillermo Nunez. The thugs follow Marcus as he asks all these prostitutes where Guillermo is, and they say that, well, this is better than the police still, isn't it? They ask some more prostitutes until they get one of them who refuses to say anything about Guillermo. Marcus starts to beat on this prostitute, and Pierre tells Marcus to back off of her. But Marcus just says, I want an answer! Somebody got raped! Was this Alex character they keep talking about raped? It can be discerned at this time that someone named Alex was raped. Pierre and Marcus seem to be on some revenge-filled journey to find the rapist of Alex. Marcus refuses to let this prostitute go and grabs her hair. The prostitute gives up and says in Spanish that she is Guillermo. She pulls up her skirt and shows them a penis. They found Guillermo. They call her slurs for being trans and yell at her that she saw the rape. Marcus pulls out a knife and puts it to this prostitute's throat. She gives up the information that the rapist was a guy named Tena. Just leave her alone. One of the thugs says, he knows that name. It's this shit fuck pimp down at the Rectum. Marcus calls her another slur and asks where he is. And she says, the thug is right, he's at the gay club named the Rectum. The thugs even say that Marcus is going a little bit too far now and to let the prostitute go. As they all learn this information though, a ton of other prostitutes chase them away from trying to hurt Guillermo. The two thugs, as well as Pierre and Marcus, get separated. Pierre and Marcus get into a taxi, while the two thugs get separated. We eventually see what happens to the two thugs in that second scene after it's all over. But the scene changes. A cop is talking to Pierre in a car. They question him if he was drinking or on drugs at this party. Pierre seems distant. Perhaps the rape has just happened and he is getting questioned about it. He doesn't really answer any of the cops' questions, including one where they ask Pierre if he lived with the victim. Pierre says he just left 15 minutes after Alex. They ask him if he even saw her at the party. The cops keep questioning him, but he seems almost catatonic. He refuses to answer them. They just let him go, and Pierre gets out of the cop car and sees Marcus, and they both just stand there, not saying a word to each other, apparently traumatized by what happened to Alex. A man, who appears to be the thug from the previous scene, asks if they're both alright and if they knew the victim. They once again don't say a word to this thug. The thug says, don't count on the police, they're not going to do shit for you. And even if they do, they'll throw the rapist in a prison and he'll still get to live his full life. But their friend, Alex, won't ever be the same after today. The thug says he can be their best friend. They seem like they could afford him. He is a man who gets to revenge people for a little bit of money. Blood money. Blood calls for revenge. Vengeance is a human right, the thug says. They ask him if he can find the fucker who raped Alex. And the thug says, well, him and his friend found a rapist in the past and made sure that he never did it again on his turf. Marcus agrees with them. Marcus says, okay, he'll hire the thugs. They found a purse with the name Guillermo Nunez in it that someone had left behind at the rape scene. They ask if Marcus is in, and they shake him out of his stupor. The scene changes. Marcus and Pierre leave a party. Pierre seems upset with Marcus. He tells him if Marcus keeps acting like that, he's gonna lose Alex. Marcus tells Pierre to just leave then. He'll go back to the party, and Pierre can go home and search after Alex. They smile, but their smiles quickly turn to worry as a bunch of cops walk by them. Marcus asks what happened here, and one of the cops just says, oh, you know, a whore got raped. They write it off, and they try to hail a cab, but as they do, the camera zooms in on Marcus as he looks horrified, as a heartbeat sound effect plays. He screams out, Alex! The camera shows a bloody woman. Marcus calls after her over and over as she is lifted into an ambulance. He asks what happened to her to the paramedics, and he grabs their shirts and begs them to tell him what happened to Alex. They just say that she was attacked and was in a coma. Marcus cries over his girlfriend who was just raped and bawls. A cop asks if he knew the victim there, and Marcus just says, Alex is his girl. It's his girlfriend. So that's one mystery solved. Marcus is Alex's boyfriend. He continues to cry that it can't be true. That's his girl. As he cries, the scene changes yet again. A well-dressed woman walks out of a party. This is obviously Alex. She hails a taxi, but none come. A woman near her tells her to just take the underpass. It's safer that way anyway. Alex takes this advice, and we get an extremely long shot of her walking. I believe that this scene is all in one take, and that makes it very unnatural and uncomfortable feeling. She walks down this underpass as a red light glows from the tunnel where she's walking. Okay, a warning real quick before we continue. I'm not going to show this next full scene, as it is one of the hardest scenes I've ever had to sit through in any movie ever. It is extremely intense. It shows an extremely bad rape, all on screen, in one take for about 10 minutes long. It is scarily realistic looking, and I have never seen a scene that is so brutally real. So be warned. Alex walks down this red tunnel hallway, and it's very unnerving. A man and that prostitute from earlier named Guillermo are walking in the opposite direction as Alex. The man beats this prostitute, and Alex notices as it happens. And the man, Tena obviously, sees that Alex just witnessed that assault, and he stops her as she screams. Tena corners her and tells her to wait here and shoves her against the wall. She continues to scream very loudly, and Tena tells her to shut the fuck up as he pulls out a knife. He holds it to her neck. She stops, and Tena looks her up and down, calling her a high-class bitch. He then asks if this situation turns her on as she slides down the wall. She begs him, please let her go. He tells her to lift her skirt, but she refuses. And he does it anyway. I'm going to censor the scene from here on out, but just know this is one of the most graphic and realistic depictions of rape I've ever seen in media. It is disgusting and intense. I'm going to skip over the details, but just know that he rapes her. As this rape is going on, someone comes down into the tunnel, but unfortunately just leaves and says nothing. After which he beats her very hard and slams her head into the ground afterwards. After which, Tena gets up and looks down at her. He says he's through with her. Dead meat. He spits on her, and the scene changes. Marcus and Pierre are having a fun time at the party. They're talking about their sex life. As they discuss this, Marcus says Pierre's been single for 3 years now. What gives? Then a woman comes up, and then Marcus says, oh, God must have sent her for a reason, because his friend Pierre here has a problem. He needs to have fun. Marcus forces Pierre into the bathroom with these two women. Marcus pulls one of these women close and kisses her. Notably, this is not Alex, the girl who Marcus is kissing. Pierre says that's not fair to Alex. He's with Alex, remember, not these two women. Pierre says he wants no part of this cheating, and he leaves the room. Marcus kisses these two women and says he has to go find his stick-in-the-mud friend Pierre. But before he does a line of cocaine. He dances around and throws Pierre into a bunch of girls and tells them to show Pierre a good time. But then Pierre gets up, not wanting any of that, and they switch places. Marcus then dances in the pit of a bunch of girls. Pierre looks at him and says this is disgusting and not fair to his girlfriend Alex. Alex is dancing alone, Pierre says. Pierre asked why did Marcus even bring Alex if he's going to do all this promiscuous stuff with other women. They argue, and Marcus tells Pierre to lighten up, it's a party. They talk about how bad Marcus is treating Alex, but Marcus doesn't really seem to care or notice that he's cheating on his girlfriend by kissing and humping these other women. Pierre, however, is more annoyed at him. They move on, and Alex is dancing with a bunch of girls as Pierre watches. Marcus comes up from behind Pierre and says, oh, he gets it. Pierre's into watching others do stuff. Pierre tells Marcus to stop being an animal. Marcus then leaves Pierre and walks up to these girls and dances with all of them right in front of Alex. Marcus tells his girlfriend that her gay friend is ruining his vibe over there. So Pierre and Marcus aren't really friends, it seems. They just know each other through Alex. Marcus tells Alex that he tried to set Pierre up with some babes and tried to get him to do some coke, but he's a real ball breaker. Alex tells Marcus to be nice to Pierre. Alex breaks away from her boyfriend and goes over to Pierre. She begs him to dance, but he says, no, it brings back too many bad memories. So it would appear that Pierre is Alex's ex-boyfriend. As she keeps dancing with him, he begs her not to. And Marcus comes by and Pierre says, oh boy, the primate's back. And Alex just keeps dancing very sexily around him. Pierre says she never danced like this before. Is she dancing away the pain from being with Marcus? She acts very flirty with Pierre, and Pierre says, you're playing with fire, Alex. But she takes him by the hand and leads him onwards. Someone calls for Alex upstairs, and she leaves Pierre downstairs as she goes up to whoever was calling her. Alex hugs this pregnant woman who was calling to her and says hi to everybody upstairs. Alex talks about the pregnant woman's pregnancy and weirdly seems enamored by the changes to her pregnant friend's body due to the pregnancy. Alex says, actually, she's really happy today. Today is a very special day for Alex. She says she's here with her man, who is Marcus, not Pierre, by the way. Marcus then comes up the stairs, and the pregnant woman says he looks like he's on something. As Marcus interrupts them, Alex says they'll talk about what happened today over dinner sometime to the pregnant woman, as she leaves. Marcus tries to come on to Alex, but she asks what he's on because he's acting so weird. His eyes are dilated. Alex pushes Marcus away and says he's not acting like himself. He can be so nice and gentle, but he's being an ass, and he's on stuff again. She says she doesn't want to stay here with him while he's acting like this. He tries to touch her, but Alex pushes Marcus away and tells him to leave her alone. She goes downstairs and Marcus calls out saying, hey, he'll take her home! But she ignores Marcus and kisses Pierre on the cheek goodbye. Pierre asks, why is she leaving? And Alex tells Pierre that Marcus is really fucked up and Pierre needs to watch after him as she goes home. Pierre offers to take her home too, but she denies it and says that she'll call him tomorrow. But Pierre says he came all this way to meet her and they were only here for like an hour. He hasn't seen her in months. And now she's leaving? He says he just wanted a little bit of nostalgia. She leaves and Pierre calls out to not go because it's not safe out there. But then the scene changes. Pierre, Marcus, and Alex attempt to go to the party together. They're in an elevator and Alex says that recently she's been reading a book that says the future's already been written. It's predetermined. And not only that, it is shown to us in dreams. Weirdly, they then transition into a talk about sex altogether. As in her current boyfriend, and her ex-boyfriend. However, they all seem like good friends. They don't seem to be at odds like at the party. Alex sort of teases Pierre as they talk about sex the whole way to the party. In the subway, in the train, as they ride, Alex says that the reason Pierre isn't good at sex is because he's too worried about how the woman feels, and he should be thinking about how he feels. Sex is better that way. They approach their stop, and the scene changes. The phone rings in the bedroom. Marcus and Alex are asleep naked on the bed. The voicemail comes through saying it's Pierre and he'll be there in a half hour. As they try and wake up, Alex says that she had a dream while she was sleeping. She says she was in a tunnel in this dream, a red tunnel, and then the tunnel broke into two. This is obviously foreshadowing, or rather backshadowing, of the rape. She says that she thinks it's because of her period, because she's late. Just a few days, but it's still concerning. Marcus gets up and says he has to get some liquor for the party and Pierre, because after all, he stole his girl, he says as he laughs. They mess around a bit more and Alex takes a shower. She takes out a pregnancy test and pees on it and waits, and the result comes through. She covers her mouth and gasps. She smiles, but then sort of frowns after. it can be figured that she is more than likely pregnant, with how she was acting with the pregnant lady at the party as well. So yes, more than likely, Alex was raped while pregnant with Marcus's child. The scene then changes. Alex then sits up with a hand on her belly as well as a 2001 Space Odyssey poster above her. And then the scene changes for the final time. It shows Alex reading that book that says that things are always predetermined. Kids run around in this nice little grass field as the camera pans out to a bunch of children playing in a sprinkler. The screen flashes white rapidly, and the movie ends. That is it. That is Gasper Noe's Irreversible, a movie that gets more devastating as the movie goes on. From a brutal murder showed on screen, to a revenge plot, to a vicious rape, and then in the end, we find out that the rape victim was pregnant. But what happened chronologically, as the movie's in reverse? Well, let's go over that real quick. First, Alex reads a book about time in a grass field where she learns something that she tells everybody later, and that is that the future is predetermined. She sits in a nice field with a bunch of kids as she does this, after which she sits on her bed with her hand on her belly. Then she and her boyfriend Marcus wake up and get ready for a party. She takes a pregnancy test and learns that she is pregnant, but does not tell Marcus yet. Then Marcus, Alex, and Pierre, her ex, start heading to a party, which they talk about sex as they go there. And once they get there, Marcus tries to help out Pierre by getting him some girls and some cocaine. But in the process, he cheats on Alex by making out with a bunch of girls and humping some other girls. Pierre condemns this, rightfully so, and goes to find Alex and watches her dance. Alex expresses her concern for her gentle ex, and Marcus continues doing drugs and kissing other girls. Alex sees her pregnant friend after and shows excitement at seeing her pregnant, as she is pregnant too, but she doesn't tell her this. During this exchange, Marcus acts a fool near them and Alex gets upset with her boyfriend, who is not very father-like. Alex leaves as she is upset by Marcus's actions at the party. She tells Pierre goodbye and she'll call him tomorrow. After which, she tries to get a taxi but has no luck, so she takes an underground passage where she gets brutally raped while pregnant by a man named Tena, who was beating on a prostitute named Guillermo Nunez, who escaped during the whole rape. After the rape, paramedics arrive and put Alex on a stretcher as Marcus and Pierre leave the party and see her and become distraught. The police question them both, who are both catatonic because of the trauma. A thug comes up and tells the two that he can find the rapist and make him pay, after which Marcus, rightfully furious, agrees with the thug. The thugs and Pierre and Marcus find Guillermo and they find out the rapist's name and that he is in a gay club called the Rectum. They find the Rectum and inside they find Tena. And surprisingly, Marcus doesn't get his revenge, but Pierre does, the soft-spoken friend. He beats Tena to death for raping his ex. In the fight, Marcus gets his arm broke. Cops show up, they arrest Pierre and put Marcus in a stretcher. Nearby, two prisoners hear the commotion in their prison, in which one of them ends, or rather starts the movie with the quote, "We're all Mephisto. Time destroys all things." That is the actual chronological turn of events, which makes a lot more sense. But what is the actual theme or message of the movie? Well, let's get into that now. The first message is obviously the gimmick of the whole movie, that is, the scenes are being played backwards. The message that is repeatedly said in the movie is that time destroys all things. We see the end of the movie first. We see Pierre brutally destroy Tena's face, a brutal act that seems senseless before we know the reason. But I believe that the movie is saying that the reason doesn't matter. Not that I agree, but it is saying that all it takes for good to be replaced by evil is the right set of circumstances. Hence the whole "we're all Mephisto" quote as well. We see the effect before we see the cause here. However, time has destroyed the cause in this case, showing the brutal murder first. Another message is going back to that whole "we're all Mephisto" thing. Like I said early in the video, Mephisto is the devil in the story of Faust. And unlike most devils in media, Mephisto is more of a tragic character rather than a pure evil one. Mephisto is a devil who knows that he has lost it all in life, and he is now a devil, instead of being in paradise in heaven like he should be. Like I said in the last paragraph, all it takes for evil to take the place of good is something horrible like grief. If we were to see this movie chronologically, we would assume that Marcus would be the one who kills Tena. Marcus is impulsive and rage-filled. However, it is Pierre who kills Tena. Pierre, throughout the whole movie, other than the murder scene, is firmly against the revenge. He is quiet and quote-unquote the good one of the two of himself and Marcus. He doesn't cheat on his girlfriend, he is mild-mannered, and seems to be a really good guy. However, in the end, his grief, like Mephisto, caused him to do evil. Another small message is obviously the classic revenge bad sort of thing, as Confucius and more importantly General Shepard from Modern Warfare 2 say, when embarking on a journey of revenge, you better be ready to dig 2 graves. Pierre damns himself to prison due to his revenge as well. But that is about it. Like I said, it is an extremely brutal movie that I am happy to cover, and I actually find it quite fascinating, and I think it's actually a pretty good movie. If you have any other movies you'd like to see, please let me know down in the comments, as well as if you think I got the message or the themes right, or if you have a different opinion. I really do love you all, and you are all heroes to me for letting me do this as a job. It really is a dream come true, and I cannot even express how thankful I am in words. But until next time, I love you all, and I will see you then. Bye.